Aven, your brother, my brother, your dad told me that you're really interested in maple syrup and things like that. So here's a little tour of our maple syrup making activity here at our house. So you can see here there's our barn and our house there's a big tree in front of the house. And then that's the garden. I'm going to turn around, and back here is a little bit of woods. And you can see we have some taps, some sap buckets back here in a few of these trees. And then over on one tree at our neighbor's, we have a couple more buckets. You can see one, and there's one on the other side. So I'm going to go on over to the trees, and I'll get some sap. Be back in a second. So here I am at one of the buckets, and you can see here we had drilled a hole, and then it seemed like it wasn't working very well, so we drilled a second hole and put the tap in, and we moved the tap, but you can see that this one is still leaking from the hole. It's wet all the way down the bark. And here in this one, you can see it's dripping. There's a drip. There's a drip. There's a drip. Let's see what we can see down in there. Hard to see. So I'm going to take this bucket off the tree, and I'm going to pour it into this orange paint bucket, a clean bucket. We're using to collect it, and we have a colander like you use for draining noodles, draining the water out of noodles. We put a shirt around it as a filter to catch any, dirt, little pieces of insects or little pieces of bark or twigs or anything that have fallen into the sap bucket, so that we just keep the sap. So I'm going to do that. Got to put you on hold for a second. Actually, I see this bucket is light enough that I can just kind of get it off with one hand, and then hopefully I won't drop the camera or anything. And we'll pour it through the filter. So that's how much was in that bucket. It didn't have a lot. It was less than a quarter full, this bucket, but that's good. It's been really cold the last couple days, so I don't think the trees have been it was all below freezing, so I think they're just waking back up again. And you can see in here there's a little bit down at the bottom of there. So I'll just pick this up and go to the next tree. Let's see how that one is doing. So these two buckets, each one is 5 gallons, and oh, this one is, if you can see, the sap is actually dripping right on the edge. We're probably losing a bunch of sap. That's too bad. And you can see the buckets have these metal lids that slide over the top of them. That's to keep rain off and try and keep stuff, leaves and twigs and bark, from falling into the bucket, to keep the sap clean. There's that hook that's behind the tap, and a hole in the bucket. The hole hooks goes onto the hook, and that's what holds the bucket. And then you just kind of try and get the bucket there lined up so that now the sap is falling in. And we'll go to the next one. So when we have a really good day, we can fill both of these orange 5-gallon buckets all the way up, and even maybe have more than that. Okay, again, this one is about a quarter full. You can see how the filter is catching some schmutz. So we're, on a good day, we're getting something over 10 gallons of sap. We have 8 taps in 6 different trees. Let's see how we're doing so far. Yeah, getting up there. On to the next tree. So this is the process so far, and I'm going to finish doing these trees, and then I'll turn the camera back on again Oh, this one is completely missing. Yeah, it's all dripping completely down the side. That's too bad. So, then I'll get back to where we're cooking it down into sap. See you then. Can you hear that? The tapping of the drips? I just emptied this bucket. You can hear tapping on the... That's the sound of the sap dripping. It's a nice sound. So this is one of the doors into the house. It's sort of like the fancy front door, which we don't really use very much. But we're using this because it's got this roof that protects it from the rain. We're cooking our sap down here. We're using this camp stove and cooking the sap down with this, and it hooks up to these propane tanks, you know, that people usually get for barbecues and stuff like that. And here is the bucket. This is all the sap that I just got on this trip today. So almost a full bucket, about 5 gallons, almost. And I'll add some into this pot, which has some sap from the other day that we haven't cooked yet. And this one is empty. We didn't have it, didn't get any more. And then you just cook it and cook it and cook it and cook it until it turns into syrup. When it gets close to being syrup, we move it inside. We move it to a smaller pot where we can be a little more careful with it and measure the temperature. It's syrup when it boils at 7 degrees hotter than regular water boils. So for us, our water is boiling at 212 degrees. We're close to sea level. If you go high up in mountains, then water boils at a colder temperature. But so for us, it's about 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and so plus 7 makes 219. So we use a thermometer and measure it. When it hits 219 degrees, we know that's it. It's the right syrup consistency. And then we're done. We just put it in a bottle and start eating it. And so that's what we're doing. Can't wait to see you this summer. Bye-bye.